Okay, so my name is Mike Keating, and on behalf of the MGAA, I'd like to welcome you to today's market briefing on the importance of the back office and training for remote working, delivered by a valued member, the Administration Hub. Before handing over to Amy and Katie, I'd like to run through a few housekeeping points. So please ensure your microphone and camera are off. If you would like to ask a question, please use the chat button at the bottom of the screen. Your questions will be answered during the Q&A session and will remain anonymous. However, if we do not have time to answer these, then we will address these post-event if you provide your contact details. The MGAA's Programme of Learning and Insights has been accredited by the Chartered Insurance Institute for the quality of content and supporting materials, with CPD hours applicable if relevant to your ongoing development. The recording of this market briefing will be available within your members dashboard with a PowerPoint presentation to follow post-event. And finally, and very importantly, you'll be sent a feedback survey. Please do take the time to complete this, which should take no more than 2 minutes, as this allows us to deliver the best quality events to you, our valued members. Okay, so with many thanks for Amy and Katie, I will hand over to you. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Mike, and welcome everyone to our webinar this afternoon. I'm Amy, Founding Director of the Administration Hub. We've been going for 7 years now, supporting businesses in the private, public and corporate sectors with their back office administration, recruitment and training for remote workers. Being predominantly a remote virtual business, which we have grown a team and overcome the remote working hurdles way before COVID, whilst having many years collectively working within different organisations and supporting efficient, streamlined processes, we're here today to hopefully provide you with some helpful learning objectives in your organisations. This is our second year as members of the MGAA, and we've been focusing our efforts to work with businesses in insurance like yourselves. There will be time for questions and answers at the end, and your key takeaways today will be: list the tips and tools that set the right foundations for a high-functioning back office, explain the key systems and how they should be working for you to save you time and money, outline what is required for effective credit control management, and explain the importance of training for remote working, including compliance, security, and mental health and wellbeing.
Hi everyone, I'm Katie, Partner Director from the Administration Hub. So to start off, we're going to look at the main functions of a back office and setting the right foundations. I would say a goal for many of us is to have a better work-life balance and a sense of feeling in control, or at least on top of things, instead of feeling like you're chasing your tail or there aren't enough hours in the day. The goal is to enjoy what we do and excel in it. There are several ways to make working life more fluid and comfortable. So as we go through the slides, listen out for any tips that could help you. We are going to kick off with our first poll. That's to wake us up after lunch, and we'll get started with this. So the first poll, if you could please, thank you, is: what is your biggest back office challenge? Is that time, organisation and processes, systems, communication, or something else? We'll give you a bit of time to answer that now.
Thank you. That was really interesting to see that systems came up as the top answer, which is your biggest challenge in the back office. So to start off with, we're going to talk about emails. So emails are a priority task for any business. It's usually the first and last thing we look at in our working day. For many of us, especially the decision makers, the day isn't typically from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. It can be much longer and spreading over the weekend. Some examples of what may come into your inbox on a typical working day could be things like your customers and clients are likely to reach out to you at critical points in their customer journey, or it could be when they need to purchase a policy. It could be things like meeting requests or seeking information regarding their policy, when they need to update it, but ultimately when they need to make a claim. They could also reach out to you about an account query. So this is just touching on some of the obvious emails, and it's easy to see how these can equate to many emails throughout your working day and become very time consuming to action. So emails are also a primary communication and an important aid for generating new business, along with maintaining and building new and existing client relationships. This then opens us up to how we represent ourselves and company through email. So every business wants its company reflected in the right way and aims to respond to emails promptly to reflect well on the business. As emails can be a main source of communication with stakeholders, it's really crucial that our professional representation of the business, and therefore you need to allow a sufficient amount of time to respond to each one accordingly. And this can quite often take you away from other high important tasks. So with this in mind, it leads us to some smart working. So here are some tips. Email organizing. This helps to reduce and streamline your emails and focus you on the priority emails to support the business in the right way. Some examples of this are you could create a flagging system or use color codes against the emails to highlight order of importance and priority. You can also create folder systems to file away and keep your inbox orderly and neat. I know for many of us, the chaos of the emails can be overwhelming and promote being less productive or missing high priority emails that are coming in. You could also create reminders for those emails that are of high importance and need action in a timely way. And always try to remember to delete and unsubscribe from spam to help eliminate a messy, chaotic inbox. You could create and use templates when necessary, as you may find you write the same response frequently. For example, things like holding emails and thank you for the business and feedback forms, etc. Using templates can save you a lot of time, and you can just personalize each one. I like to have templates ready to go, as it saves me a lot of time in my day. A key tip would also to be make use of the maximize the add-ins available to you in your mailboxes. As we can deal with so many emails, we can just quickly write and respond and send. And sometimes we make errors. You may also have a neurodivergent employee who may be dyslexic. So make use of the add-ins like Grammarly and auto spell check. And this will also help represent the business in the right way, but also give support and to that individual and confidence within their work. So we've addressed smart working, which then leads us on to delegating. Sometimes it can be useful to delegate the inbox management. There are two forms of delegating emails. The first being to delegate any emails to a more relevant team member. For example, if you've got a subscription notice or an account query, if that is typically not in your area, it may take you twice as long to find the answer. Or you could delegate the email management to a PA or administrator to oversee and forward or flag any priority emails coming in, and this will save you time, but they can also respond on your behalf when appropriate. This type of support can also manage your diary, events, and appointments. So hopefully we have addressed a few ideas to help you save time within your emails in your working day.
Thank you, Amy. So let's now have a look at human resources. So good HR management is part of the foundation to all businesses. What is a company without a high-performing, content team? And that's whether that's employees or contractors, as both represent the business. The saying goes, you are only as good as your weakest player. That is why it's essential that the basis of good HR management is embedded into the business and everyone feels supported from the day that they join. People are the core of the business. If you have an unhappy team, that dramatically affects the productivity. Make sure they are feeling like they're listened to and appreciated, and small things can help this, such as regular one-to-ones with line managers. These don't have to be long and formal. Maybe it's just grabbing a coffee once per month, but it gives the team member that opening to have a chat. And also organise team events. Aside from the usual Christmas party, it's good to give incentives who are working hard during the year. This could be a night out, a daytime activity, or simply ordering in lunch for everyone. It just shows you recognise and appreciate their work and that they're valued. Adapting HR support for remote working. If your company is doing hybrid or even fully remote working, it's essential the HR support is still in place. In fact, it's even more important because you can't see when that person is having a bad day or if they're carrying out their agreed duties. Some important factors can help this are things like agree a clear line of communication. For example, how is this preferred? Is it ideally by email or WhatsApp or phone call, and how often? Do, as line managers, you expect an update daily, weekly, or just for the deadlines to be met? If these are agreed and documented in advance, both the team member and the line manager have something to refer back to. Also, assign a buddy. If someone is having a bad day or they have what they might think is a silly question that they don't want to ask a line manager, but if they have a colleague of a similar level they can speak to, it just helps relieve any building pressure, and that can happen when working alone. So we are going to do a second poll now, just to get your thoughts on. What do you think is the percentage of the workforce in the insurance industry that leave their job within the first 3 years? Do you think it's less than 25%, 25 to 50%, 50 to 75%, or more than 75%? I'll give you a chance to answer that now. Okay, so I think most of you have responded now, and interestingly, most of you think that it's 25 to 50%, where actually HR forecast reports that 89% of workforce in the insurance industry leave their roles within 3 years. This is an extremely high percentage, and it is indicated that majority of that is due to employees feeling undervalued, stagnant in their role, and a poor work-life balance, which feeds into the points we've just discussed and a reminder to take into consideration team progression and training. Also, are you recruiting the right people in the first place? How in-depth is your recruitment process? We advise on a multi-layered process from telephone screenings, looking at their goals, understanding the business culture, carrying out references, tests, and in-person interviews. So with HR systems and processes, save you time, easy access to data, and be compliant. These days, everything can be logged on a system and accessed at a touch of a button. And it should be that simple. Don't make life hard for yourself by having holidays on one spreadsheet, end of year reviews in another file, sickness on emails, and the list just goes on. So decide on a platform that works for you and use it to its fullest. With several of our clients, we use Breathe HR, as this can log holiday and sickness, store your HR documents such as contracts and employee reviews, manage disciplinary processes, and produce your reports. Then, importantly, allocate someone to manage that for you. They will be in charge of getting the holidays approved or flagging to line managers when someone is reaching high sickness levels, keeping training and compliance documents up to date, because this is just not something that line managers need to be doing. It can be outsourced, and having that third person as an intermediary often helps. So companies that value and care about their team will attract business and clients. I mean, people want to work with good people with high values and a great work ethic, and in turn, this builds trust for future business. If employees are happy and feel valued, they are true ambassadors for the company. So in summary, HR is essentially about your team, the company ethics, the culture and morals, and making sure they are an integral part of how you operate as a business. Now we would just like to show you a short video from a certified and remote working course which summarises what we've just gone through.
Stay hydrated. This improves your concentration. Have a bottle of water next to you in your space of remote working. Set boundaries. Work to a time frame and switch off and take time for you in your personal life. If you set this, it will help you to achieve more and manage your time better. Set a routine. Print out your daily home working schedules of tasks and add in activities such as breaks and exercise. Printing it out gives you a visual reminder. Take regular breaks. You can set alarms for this or add reminders in calendars to help maintain balance. For example, set an alarm every hour to remind you to get out of your seat and walk around for 2 minutes. Be kind and be realistic. Don't beat yourself up if you're struggling, feel overwhelmed or stressed. Take a break, go for a walk, and get some headspace time to help you focus and find perspective. You can make this time up either later that day or the next day. Communicate. Don't isolate yourself. Schedule in calls and catch-ups with colleagues, clients, or team members to communicate and share progress and ideas and delegate if necessary. This will help you feel less stressed and more like you are part of a team or community. It's good to stay connected. Risk assessment, your workspace. Ensure your desk and equipment are set up correctly and do not cause you any discomfort or pain. Exercise daily. This doesn't have to be anything too strenuous. Stretching whilst at your desk or taking a walk up and down the stairs at home all count as exercise. Keep some of the routines you would have had if travelling to a place of work. For example, get up, get showered, and get dressed for work.
Right, so many of you said at the beginning that systems were a pain point for you, so we're going to have a look at CRM and systems now. So firstly, find the ones that are right for you and your business. There are thousands of systems out there now, and finding the right one can often seem overwhelming. It's important to find the ones that help you manage your clients, contacts, sales process, finance, and main projects from start to finish. So it can be confusing about which ones to choose. A couple of tips to get you started are: have a think about in what areas could automation help. Is that with managing your projects, your finance processes, contacts lists, communications? So take a look at your current systems and see what gaps there are and if any can be merged to simplify and streamline where possible. And what are you trying to achieve? You need a clear goal. For example, do you want a more compliant document control system? Are you trying to save time, save money, or make your team more efficient? If you have a clear understanding of what the most important outcome of a system is, you can drastically reduce the options out there and therefore making it easier to decide which ones might work for you. Invest in the future. New systems can seem expensive and time-consuming when you're trying to implement them, but long-term you will see a huge return on your investments. Often team members are not using their skills or experience to the best of their abilities as they are bogged down in time-consuming manual processes. But with automated systems, it can reduce the time spent on these, or even can be managed by an outsourced company that become part of the team, but without the cost of a full-time employee. So smart working, make the system work for you. The majority have a lot of automated functions. So spend the time at setup to get all these working effectively, and they will do a lot of the work for you by populating documents, sending reminders, generating emails, etc. This will dramatically streamline your processes and reduce the workload. Also, be one step ahead, and as you're setting up the processes, create a short training video that can be rolled out to train others, making the change easier and save you time. With reporting, use the reporting functions to assist with business decisions. Rather than spending hours pulling spreadsheets and various documents together, use the system to generate these reports. They can show you the profit and loss, your best performing clients, where improvements need to be made, and also your future projections. Clear allocation of tasks and timelines. Who is responsible for what? Management systems can clearly indicate where you are within a project or a claim, as when it is set up, you can allocate tasks and responsibilities to certain individuals. Then, when one element is finished, it will flag to the next person that it's been passed to them. These can be amended during the journey with notes and information to be recorded. So keep on track. most systems have timeline functions and that functionality to set deadlines and reminders. Once these are set, allocate a project administrator to oversee this process to make sure everyone is on track, and if not, flag it to the line manager. Having this administrator alleviates time restraints on the manager having to manage the finer details of the project and the team. Just as an example, some systems that we've used with for this purposes with our clients are Slack and Asana. So anyway, I think you've heard enough from me now, so I will hand back to Amy to talk through the finances.
Thank you, Katie. So finance is a crucial part of any business. To know your figures at a glance and have a good understanding of costs within your business, but to also be aware of your debtors. It can be complex and time-consuming within the insurance industry especially, and this can place heavy on your workload. So let's go through some of the factors and maybe pain points that be involved. So invoicing, debit notes and sending out statements. For many, this will be using a software system or a bespoke system made for your organisation. And hopefully they're highly more automated. But if they aren't, you should look to see if they can be. Or look to change to one that supports automation and streamlines the processes. Invoicing and debit note tasks, etc., are generally lower level tasks that can be delegated to an admin or accounts member of your team and not typically performed by a senior manager. Then premium collections. Now this can be a very time-consuming task depending on the size of your business. And we refer to the money coming into the bank that then should be allocated to the risks and flagged as paid on your bordereau or automated software. Hopefully you have systems that speak to and work with each other as to not spend time duplicating tasks across many different systems and ultimately creating more work for yourself. Then allocating the commission, splitting out the premiums on a ideally daily basis. When the money comes in from an insured or broker, it can consist of multiple payments. So without an email or a statement confirmation, this can incur a further task of chasing the insurer to obtain the details of the bulk payments to then be able to allocate it correctly. This is a vital and intricate task, and if not carried out routinely, can get out of control very, very quickly. Then you've got paying insurers. Typically a monthly task for many, and it should be done routinely and fall within your terms of business and also support the relationships you have established. Payments should be easily identified on your software or bordereaux with the accurate inputted data that month. Then cancellation notices and credit control. Potentially you may have this as a weekly task to view your outstanding premiums owed and chase the customers and clients via email with the promise of cancellation if not paid. Credit control is a priority task for any business to support the cash flow of the business, but also to build the right relationships. You don't have to be rude or confrontational. It's about getting to know your clients and customer base and building effective, positive relationships so they know what to expect from you and vice versa. But ultimately getting the money in as quickly as you can within the terms. Once they know your methods and expectations and the relationships have been established, the time to chase will decrease while increasing your cash in the bank. The word credit control can often be perceived as ugly and boring, and I do say this loosely, and many will often place it low on their priorities, but it doesn't have to be. You just bring a sunny persona and a smile behind the phone and emails and place it near the top, as cash flow is crucial, and when we take the time to build effective, positive relationships through credit control, it really does make a positive on the business as a whole. Within finance tasks, you also have reconciliation and reporting along with management accounts, but all tasks are high level and use different skills from your team. So if you do not have the effective skill set or sufficient time allocated within your business, you should seek to employ or outsource. Outsourcing can also be good as a third party for tasks like credit control, as there can be a buffer for any indirect reaction or ill feeling for chasing. Finance tasks depending on the size of the business. Sorry, apologies, that's me. Just read the same bit twice. And moving on. So now we've got some feedback from some of our clients on the points that we've just discussed. So one of our clients told us recently that their cancellation rate used to be around 3% in GWP, gross written premium. Now it's under 1% since they enlisted support to regularly oversee, manage and monitor this area of their business. And some customers' clients, a broker or a direct insured, will not pay until they're chased. Once chased in this polite, friendly and professional manner, with the potential risk of cancellation, the payments are much more likely to be paid, and this slowly becomes the norm once the process is embedded. So now, to wake you up a bit after all the HR systems and finance talk, we're going to do another poll to see what are your financial challenges. Are they credit control? Is it the skill set within your team? Is it the time management or the accuracy of data? Okay, thank you. Well, I think everyone's answered, and it's really interesting that credit control is the biggest challenge within finance, and a close second is the accuracy of data. So that's really interesting for everyone to know and maybe think about. So we're going to take a deeper look at some of the challenges within your finance and credit control. So first off, relationships. If we slightly touched on this, let's delve a little bit further. And it's obvious that not everybody likes everybody, unfortunately. It's just human nature, and some people just rub each other up the wrong way or just don't get on. The key is to have that sense of emotional intelligence to deal with these situations professionally. That can be either putting the differences aside or just being stoic, but this way doesn't particularly lend itself well to word of mouth or referrals and repeat business. If they can go elsewhere for future business and build better relationships, then they just might. Another way would be to look for someone within your team who this client gets on better with and have them take a lead on this relationship. Or you could really tap into what makes this person tick to try and win them over by displaying or portraying traits to find a common point of interest to build on. Whatever the way, the greater goal of the business has to be at the forefront to ultimately retain that client for the long term and seek to grow the business. It's also well known that in the insurance industry that a lot of business is done within a social environment, and true connections and relationships are built. However, it is important to be aware that you are still representing the business and to reflect yourself and the business in the best way possible. It's well known, and there's absolutely no judgment on my part or Katie's, that lunch meeting in the insurance industry can take over the rest of the working day when the alcohol may start to flow. And you may be walking out the door a different version of yourself to what you went in, but I'll leave that food for thought there. So next up, we've got accurate and up to date. So when working on complex spreadsheets and managing a lot of data, it can be really easy to make a nominal error, which could then later down the line take you half a day to find out why something is off. But we're only human, and this will inevitably happen at times. But we can support and look to avoid this by a few simple measures. The first being, take regular breaks away from the screen and have minimal distractions around you. Always double check the figures and cross-reference where possible. And another interesting fact is to get regular eye tests. This may sound silly, but you'd be surprised how many people's eyesights have changed and they've not realised it. This can leave room for error in many ways with data inputting, reading documents, writing emails, the list is long. But working long hours on computers does make the eyes deteriorate faster. A question you could ask yourself as a business is, do you as a company offer support for glasses or eyesight tests as a way to encourage people to regularly check their eyesight and therefore support your business in the best way possible? So then we've got consistency. We touched on this earlier of whether tasks are done daily, weekly or monthly, but in the finance sector, it's really important to find a regular routine that works for you, the business and the customer. This has many benefits all round, from helping you to create more time in your day and seeing the accurate reports and figures and being able to relay that to your clients and them knowing when they will expect a remittance or invoice or a statement will lead to fewer queries and ultimately less admin for you. So cash flow. We can't stress to keep on top of your credit control and make this a priority for a member of your team or outsource support. Each week, you should know how much debt is outstanding and at what age and level. Everyone wants to keep cash in their bank and release it at the final hurdles, but that can incur more fees for you and more time and more admin and more uncertainty as to know when if you are ever going to get paid. Tips for making this easier are to have a routine for this process. Sometimes flowcharts can support this and the client customer journey. It easily identifies when things go wrong, and it's also really good for a visual for your team member who's carrying out the work. Have a system that is transparent and easily identifies your age debt, and know your client base and build positive relationships even through credit control. The final tip for you all on your office processes would be to create operations manuals for each role and task. This is not only great for preparation for potential exit strategy, but it also business should a team member have long-term sickness or absence. Someone else can follow this manual to help you keep on top of things and leave less room for error and delayed tasks. This is something we provide for all our clients, and it really is like an insurance policy in itself. We truly believe you train right and only once.
Brilliant. Thank you, Amy. So we are going to start this section with the last poll of the presentation. So what we want to ask everybody now with regards to remote working is, have you had training specifically for remote working? That's just a simple yes or no answer. Right, so
Looks pretty unanimous to me.
I think that's a resounding no, that nobody has had training specifically for remote working, which is really interesting. And unfortunately, as we probably predicted. So let's have a look at it now. So remote and hybrid working is here to stay. And I think we can all agree that it is now a standard part of the working environment. Whether that be full-time or part-time, which is what we refer to as hybrid working. As we mentioned at the beginning, our business offering virtual remote support has been operating since 2017, so way before COVID made this normal for the world. So we know it can work, but there must be the correct training parameters, compliance, security and support put in place. So expectations, many companies have not given their staff any training or support to work from home. They just expected them to know how to work and behave from a remote environment, which can leave both parties very vulnerable. So have the expectations been clearly laid out? For example, is it still the normal 9 to 5 hours, or can this be flexible? Is the dress code the same for video calls as it would be if you was in the office? And how often should the line manager be contacted? Also, with the working environment, some employees were sent home with a laptop and expected to work in the same professional manner from their sofa with no thought to compliance or security. It's important that the work environment is assessed as it would be in the office, which can be done with just a simple online workstation assessment. So if we look at motivation and productivity, a lot of people are always under the impression that if people worked from home, they sat around in their pajamas all day and didn't do any work. But with the right training and guidance, the understanding to meet expectations, it will improve work-life balance, giving people the motivation to make it work from home and be productive and successful. So according to the Forbes Advisor survey, remote or hybrid workers reported that it improved their work-life balance by 78% and 52% said it was quicker to complete work. So this is proof that remote working can be more productive and it helps mental health and well-being. As an employer with a remote working team or a manager who has adopted remote working, it's vital that your team are trained up to do this effectively and securely. With training, it is your responsibility to set the standards, clearly identify levels of communication, professionalism, and what the processes are they should follow. If they have not had the training or guidance to do this and mistakes are made, it is at the fault of the employer. With physical and mental health well-being, it is the responsibility of all of us to take care of our own mental health and well-being, but also be aware of our colleagues. This is much more difficult when working from home. So some tips to help with this are by making sure they carry out the work area assessment and recommending regular breaks. You can help your employees get the right physical well-being. Having regular one-to-ones or a buddy system is vital for those working alone, as it can seem isolating and overwhelming at times. So provide guidance and tips on how to alleviate some of these stresses, such as setting time frame boundaries around tasks, staying hydrated, maybe doing an online fitness class, or having online coffee breaks, or even just knowing who they can talk to. It's the simple things that can make a big difference. So with responsibility, ultimately, whether your team are working in the office or from home, it's the company's responsibility to ensure they are working to a high standard, carrying out all their duties and are safe and well during contracted hours. So it's vital that you provide the training, that there's a recognised standard to follow, and therefore the team member is accountable for their actions. Working in the insurance industry, there are a lot of compliance expectations, which are the same whether working in the office or at home. So do you have clear rules around cybersecurity? Do all your team have antivirus software and multi-factor authentication? And how do you check that no one else is using their laptop at home? These are extremely important aspects that you will need to be able to potentially prove. So finally, we have designed an accredited e-learning certified and remote working course that covers all of the points we've just discussed, plus a lot more. It will give the team members confidence, professionalism, and a standard to work within. Plus, it's a certified course. For employers, it provides security that your team have been trained to work at a high level remotely, and it makes them accountable and reduces the risk of issues. It's a 13 bite-sized modules that can be stopped and started, or if you completed it in one go, it takes roughly about 2.5 hours. It is certified, so upon completion, you will receive a certificate and an electronic badge like you can see on the screen here, and that can go on your signatures or marketing materials to show the standard that you're working to. Some of our insurance clients already have this as a standard part of their training curriculum and onboarding process, and it has reduced their compliance and HR issues. So if you want to give us a call or contact us afterwards the session, we'd be happy to have a chat about remote working in general or how the course can be incorporated into the procedures. Finally, we would like to share just a little snippet from the course.
Working with multiple managers or clients means that you will hold information for each of them. This could include their personal information, but also data on their customers or clients. It is vital that you have a clear division of this data and that it is stored on separate systems, or that you have different logins for each client. Look into systems that offer secure sharing of information, such as Trello. This allows you to set up a board per client, and only the people you invite to it directly can view it. Only use cloud-based systems to store files. Never store these on your hard drive.
So we video interesting and you've enjoyed the webinar today, and you've got some useful tips and knowledge and takeaways from our webinar today. But if you've got any questions, it's now time to ask me and Katie anything else that you'd like to know. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, Casey and Amy, thank you very much indeed. So for those members on webinar, please use the chat button if you've got any questions. I've got some, which might surprise. Thanks for an extremely insightful presentation, which has got fantastic tips in there. As you'd be aware through your own experience, you've got large organisations and you've got small startups and medium. And that's the profile of our sort of MGA membership. Would you give any recommendation in terms of, because if you were a small business, you could see some of what you covered with absolutely everything was relevant, but could be quite daunting in terms of actually pulling all that together, which you've got experience on. Would you give any sort of advice or counsel in terms of those smaller type organisations about how they set out to sort of cover the areas you've just sort of shared with us over the last 45 minutes?
Yeah, I think a lot of people find it hard to let go in the beginning when the business is really small and obviously they're wearing multiple hats. But from, our own personal experience and a lot of our clients, as soon as they do let go and drip feed the delegation of tasks that they want to offload, or, their skill set doesn't really sit in, they can grow their business tenfold, like twice as quick, because they're concentrating on the front side of the business and where the passion is for them and why they set it up in the first place. So I think it's having the confidence to let go, because we understand, like no one does it like yourself, but we just like to understand our clients, really embed ourselves with them, their systems, and do it at their pace, but also with a gentle push of encouragement to say, why are you doing that? Your time is, so much worth elsewhere.
So in a way, it's sort of maybe you need to take a step back on this, like anything. If you're buying a system or anything, you've got to take a step back and sort of assess what you want to do in the first place rather than dive in. Would you agree with that, Katie?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's worth, you're so in the business and you're doing a bit of everything every day that sometimes you don't know everything that's being done. And as much as your time is valuable, sometimes it's worth setting some time aside to look at what you're doing daily, how long everything is taking, and therefore either you can understand how you might be able to do it better and manage your time better, or what you could potentially hand over to somebody else, so your time is being used more effectively.
Okay, well, I'll carry on as with the questions, if I may. So, a very interesting stat at the start of your presentation. I think, if I remember right, it was a 93% in terms of would again purchase a product in terms of excellent customer service. And looking at sort of your comments around back office, remote working, where do you see the growth of sort of AI sort of forming within that customer service? Sort of advantage, but again, aligned with sort of back office, sort of streamlining using AI. How do you see that developing?
I think we all know that AI is moving really quickly, and I don't think we can all keep up with it to a certain degree. And there is a place for it, definitely. And some of those systems can help productivity, but I think we also need to be careful not to take that personal element away from things. So when you're dealing with your customers and clients, they don't want an automated response. They don't want to know that that's been generated, that they're dealing with a human being, and that their product is important, that they're important to you, and that they've got that sort of human touch at the end of it. I think that goes a long way. So there is a place for AI, and I think that can help speed up production and help behind the scenes. But I think it's important to find that balance between the systems and the personal touch as well.
I'd fully agree with that, Katie. And I think from my own personal experience, when I'm on the end of the phone trying to get through and it takes me 10 minutes before I'm actually speaking to a person rather than an automated process, it's really frustrating because it doesn't cater for all the time for what you need. So, but I think that personal element needs to be there at the end of the day, because people buy people when they want to renew their insurance and talk about something, is just that personal touch. And every time I would say would take that over AI for us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Okay. So just remaining with the members on the call, any questions before I bring the webinar to a close. Okay. So of course, let me first and foremost sort of express our appreciation and many thanks to Amy and Katie of the Administration Hub for actually very, very insightful and a lot to consider in this presentation. So thank you very much indeed. I've got a message from someone here thanking you for the presentation, sort of ladies. Before we finish, I'd just like to remind you to complete our feedback survey, as your views are extremely important to the MGAA team. And then finally, thanks very much again to Katie and Amy, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thanks very much for joining.
Thanks everyone for their time.
Thank you. Thank you.